All right, so a report came out yesterday morning that stated directly from the Heat, from Pat Riley, "We usually don't comment on rumors, but all this speculation has become a distraction to the team and is not fair to the players and coaches. Therefore, we will make it clear we are not trading Jimmy Butler." This is an interesting report to put out. Teams generally don't comment on this stuff, number one. So that's a pretty strong stance for the team to take, and I think creates a very interesting talking point with this Jimmy Butler situation. And that question, that talking point is, number one, why? So I'm going to talk about it in this video. Why would they not trade Jimmy Butler? Why I think they probably should, and why I think there's a good chance he still will get traded. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark of the channel. I'm uploading every single day, multiple NBA videos a day. We're back to uploading consistently. Apologies, my voice sounds a little bad. I'm sick. Doing my best to still get y'all content, though. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's talk about it. So this is in response, that Heat post is in response to Shams tweeting yesterday morning on Christmas, I guess 2 days ago, as y'all see this video, that Jimmy Butler prefers a trade out of Miami ahead of the February 6th deadline. I believe that this is true. Generally, Shams is correct in his reporting on this type of stuff. That being said, obviously he cannot force the Heat to trade him, and especially with the new complicated CBA rules, the teams that can trade for Jimmy are smaller than ever, and therefore it becomes tougher and tougher to work out a trade, and I think the teams have more leverage when it comes to trade talks. With that being said, Jimmy has a $52 million player option next year that he may or may not opt into. I kind of wonder if the Heat think he may just opt into it if they keep him no matter what, because he's 35 years old and because his payday may not be all that huge for his next paycheck. I don't know if he's going to be getting another max contract. I personally don't really think Jimmy's play style is super max contract worthy at this point in his career with the decreased scoring and stuff. But Jimmy is still a great player, and the biggest issue for me, if you're the Heat, is you are putting a lot of hope into him not just leaving for nothing in the offseason. Like, you're not going to trade Jimmy Butler, but right now would be an opportunity to get a lot of assets for a Heat team that isn't great and does seem to be in the second or third tier in the Eastern Conference. And we'll talk about that conference more here in just a second, but you can get a lot of assets now for Jimmy Butler, especially since he's been playing better as of late. I don't think losing him for nothing in the summer, which is a serious possibility if he opts out of his player option and he decides to become an unrestricted free agent, very good chance he leaves, especially with him reporting now, or with it being reported now, like we just said, like I was on screen, that he wants out. That's really scary if I'm the Heat. That's the number one thing to talk about, is you really are risking a lot of just not getting anything for him if you don't trade him now. And so that would be really concerning, number one, if I was the Miami Heat. And it's a big reason why I would consider trading him if he truly is just like, yeah, I'm not re-signing, I want out. If that's the case, I don't know why they wouldn't trade him. Now, they did get a good win tonight against the Magic. They were down 10 going into the fourth quarter, wound up winning on a game winner from Tyler Hero, and they did so without Jimmy tonight. So good win for the Heat. Give them credit. Puts them at 15-13. They've won 6 of their last 10. They're the 6th seed in the East. They're not a bad team by any means. I mean, they got a 2.7 net rating, which isn't bad. But here's the thing. When you talk about the East, Cavs and Celtics have clearly, with how well they've played this season, established themselves as that tier 1. Tier 2, teams like the Knicks, the Magic when they're healthy, and the Bucks, especially after their rough start. They were 2-8. They're 16-13 now. That's 14-5 in their last 10 games. Or sorry, their last 19 games. That's your second tier, Knicks, Magic, Bucks. I feel like the Heat are in the Hawks tier as that third tier tertiary playoff team in the East, not a real championship contender. Now, I understand the concept of this Heat grit, Heat magic, whatever you want to say, Heat voodoo, where they're going to always turn it on in the playoffs, and they believe that they can beat anybody in the playoffs, even if they just make it through the regular season. And we've seen it before. I mean, 2022 was a perfect example of that. Or was it 23? Was a great example of that run and that ability that this team did have. But here's the issue, y'all. At the end of the day, I still think they're a tier 3 team. And I think when you look at the roster, Tyler Hero is having an awesome year, really efficient, really elevating his score and having a great year overall. Bam Adebayo, though, has been really significantly down offensively this year, besides the fact he's shooting more threes, but three-point percentage is kind of going down. I like the fact that he's stretching his range, and I think that's good, but inside, his efficiency has been worse this season. He's still a very good defensive player, yes, and a great playmaker for a big, but I think he's reached his offensive ceiling realistically, especially if he's not going to shoot the three ball super efficiently. Jimmy's only averaging, 18.5, 6, and 5. Like, His assist to turnover ratio is very low, which is really good. He doesn't make a ton of bad decisions, but still not a hyper efficient player. His 3-point shooting isn't top tier. I mean, the shooting inside the 3-point line is very efficient, and that's valuable from Jimmy for sure. But he's not a super high volume scorer at this point anymore. And while still a very, very good player, I don't think as is that a roster that is that reliant on Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler as your main primary options offensively is going to be an elite enough offensive team to compete at the upper echelon at this point in the playoffs, even in a weaker Eastern Conference. And they're not going to get a single easy matchup. This is a team that will likely be a play-in or right outside the play-in team as a 6 or 7 seed would be my guess. Outside of their big three, they do have a pretty decent core around them. I mean, here's a good point guard, not great. Haywood Highsmith's having a really good shooting year. Duncan Robinson, we know he's an elite level shooter in his own right. Jovic has kind of played okay recently. Jaime Jaquez, not sure what happened to him as a shooter. He's had a rough offensive season. Definitely don't love that. Would like to see more. Drew Smith is having a really good year, very efficient, playing himself into a contract, and then he tore his Achilles. That's a shame. That's an injury that does hurt this team a lot. Alec Burks hasn't played a ton, but he's played well when he has played. They don't have Thomas Bryant anymore because they traded him to the Pacers. So Kevin Love's kind of their main backup big, him and I guess Khalil Ware kind of, but who doesn't play a ton. Like, you look at this roster and you go through the names, it's just not a great team. It's a good team, but it's not a great team. And that furthers my statement. And I mean, the other stats back it up too, to be honest, of them being a good team, not a great team. 11th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating. They're not hyper elite on either end of the court, but they're good. They're 11th in net rating. Like, as I'm saying, they're a good team, but they're not a great team. And I think at this point, when you have an asset who is still as valuable as Jimmy Butler is, and you have the possibility of losing him for nothing in the summer, and you are not a team that is right now in a position to truly compete for a championship in all likelihood, why would you not explore trading him, especially if he's making it clear that he doesn't really want to be there and he'd like out? That's the biggest thing. If he was happy in Miami and discussions were going on that he's going to resign this summer, things are going to be good, we're going to work out an extension. If that was the case, I'd be a lot less scared, but that is very clearly not the case. If that was the case, the extension would have been done a year ago. I mean, it looks like extensions aren't even on the table at this point as of right now for the Heat. Obviously, things can change, and maybe they will, but they're playing with fire right now, because if you lose Jimmy Butler for nothing, that is going to sting, with the possibility of potentially trading him for a young player and multiple assets right now to another team, and a team that's probably not going to contend with or without him this season, for real, at least in the Miami Heat. I think if the season ends and they wind up losing in the first round of the playoffs and they lose Jimmy for nothing in the summer, Heat fans are going to be rightfully pissed they didn't take advantage of the opportunity to get assets for Jimmy, especially when he already expressed his displeasure. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. Just kind of wanted to continue to talk about this Jimmy Butler situation with new news coming out. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I will be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.